The sun was slowly sinking lower. Its rays illuminated only the slopes of the hills, forming bizarre bright spots on them. Taiga was preparing for the nightlife. The daytime sounds gradually subsided. Animals and birds, leading an active life during the day, were preparing for rest. The night inhabitants, on the contrary, woke up and asked the daytime ones what interesting things had happened that day. Me and a worker, a former hunter with my dog, having completed the route, headed to the camp. The night was rapidly coming into its own. The last rays of the sun had already disappeared, and the twilight was confidently enveloping in a velvet blanket of darkness. The moon rose in the sky, and the stars poured out in a scattering. She illuminated everything with her mysterious light, bringing magic and changing the surrounding nature. On a night like this, it feels like you've fallen into a fairy tale. The worker walked in front, and I followed him. After walking about 500 meters, it seemed to my peripheral vision that someone was walking parallel. A meter away from us, now showing up, then hiding behind bushes and trees. Without stopping, she turned her head in that direction to make sure, and immediately tripped and fell. The hunter stopped and turned around. When I tried to get up, I felt pain in my leg. Groaning involuntarily, she took off her backpack and the device and began to feel the sore spot. I calmed down that there was no open fracture. The worker came up to me. When I found out that there was something wrong with my leg, I found a suitable stick so that I could lean on it when walking. Taking my backpack and device from me, despite my objections, he helped me get up, and we continued on our way. He was walking, loaded, 2 backpacks, a device, a rifle and an axe. I was hobbling light from behind, leaning on an improvised crutch. The dog ran ahead of us, occasionally running up to us. The pain increased with each step. After walking about 300 meters, she stopped and sat down on the ground. Pulling up her pant leg, she asked me to shine a light on her leg. She was already noticeably swollen, in the place where there was severe pain. The hunter took iodine and a bandage from his backpack. After applying the mesh, she bandaged it. "Can you walk?" "What is it?" he asked. "And where am I gonna go?" "You're as loaded as a donkey. Just let's move, even slower," I replied. With great difficulty, clenching my teeth so as not to moan, with his help and leaning on a stick, I got up and we walked. He was in front, looking back at me every now and then. At first, it was tolerable. But the longer they walked, the pain became unbearable with each step. I walked with my teeth clenched. It was obvious from the pain. His forehead was covered with perspiration. I just wanted to say that a short rest was necessary when I felt as if someone was supporting me, slightly lifting me off the ground so that I did not step with all my weight on my sore leg. It's a strange feeling. I didn't feel like I was being supported by a human being. Looking to the left, she was walking with her head down, looking only at her feet. She saw someone next to her. Surprisingly, our dog reacted calmly to him. At that time, we just came out into an open area illuminated by moonlight. It was a translucent entity, similar in outline to a human, taller than me by about a head or a little more. He had an almost overgrown, either wool or hair, face with a beard and bushy eyebrows. His eyes shone a greenish-blue color from under them. He is dressed in loose trousers, like trousers, and either a kaftan or a loose-fitting, long-sleeved robe. He held me by the waist with both hands, but I didn't feel his touch, as if from human hands. It just made it easier for me to walk. It didn't hurt so much. There was no aggression or malice coming from him. When I looked up at his face, he smiled and nodded. "Thank you," I whispered. At this time, the hunter stopped and turned around to make sure once again that I was following him. Literally for a split second, his eyes widened, but immediately returned to normal and, turning away, continued walking. Finally, we approached the camp, where a bonfire was burning and around which our people, who had also returned from the roots, were sitting. Before reaching a little, I felt that I was being gently released. That is, I firmly put my feet on the ground. The pain in my leg increased dramatically. Turning my head, I saw that this creature was a meter away from me. "Thank you very much," I said, opening my teeth with difficulty. The hunter stopped and turned to us. Bowing low to him, said, "Thank you, Master of the Taiga, for your help." The entity smiled at us, retreated behind the trees, and seemed to disappear, as if it had never existed. Approaching the campfire, they joined those sitting. After dinner, over a cup of tea, they told about what had happened, about unexpected help. If hadn't been for the owner of the taiga, who helped me walk, I don't know why. Maybe he just regretted it. Most likely, the hunter would have had to leave me alone and go for help. Once, there was an amazing story. In the evening, a group of teenagers and I sat in the park near the bushes on a low fence and laughed, told jokes and stories to each other. Suddenly, not far from us, long humanoid creatures appeared in some dark robes. Their faces were pale and elongated. These friends themselves were very similar to each other. I think there were 3 of them. They came up to us and began talking to us in some rattling voices. They tried to joke, laugh, and imitate our actions in every possible way. It was immediately noticeable that this was exactly an imitation of our conversation. For some reason, many of the guys fell silent and, looking down, were afraid to look in their direction, as if they expected something bad, not understanding why this was happening. To my surprise, I began to tell them that you are not like that. You're not real. We will not communicate with you. Even I began to mimic them. After these words, the skinny and long, narrow-faced ones hurried back to the place from where they had appeared. I got a good look at them. Their faces are like masks, almost motionless, narrow chin, elongated and pointed, dark eyes, light face, almost white, pale, dark hair, long, dark clothes, and something resembled a cloak. They didn't touch anything with their hands, and I didn't touch them. It felt like they were drawn in space, a hologram. Later, the guys admitted that they were very scared of them. There was some kind of paralysis. They could neither run away nor move. They just looked down and shook with fear. These are the cartoons. Do you think it was contact or working out contact with people? It seemed to me that it is not clear who and how they were controlled, or they controlled themselves like that. Looked a little unreal, like mannequins, doll, But it is worth noting that if these were biorobots, for example, then, surely, after some time, their creators eliminated all errors and shortcomings. I'm sure if that's the case after all.